Hey, Big Blue Banter listener. Would you like an extra $500? That's a lot of cash. Go to bluewirepods.com/survey and complete the Blue Wire audience survey about you and your podcast listening habits for a chance to win a $500 gift card. This survey will help create a better advertising experience for audiences and, in turn, help this show. That's bluewirepods.com/survey, where all you have to do is answer some simple questions for a chance to win $500. Make sure to read the full terms and disclaimer, plus complete the survey for a chance to win. BlueWirePods.com/survey. The link is also in the show notes of this episode.
Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneier, joined as always my co-host Nick Velato. Today we are here to break down the offensive film from the New York Giants Week 6 loss on Sunday Night Football to the Cincinnati Bengals. This one was interesting for me, Nick, because it was the first game I attended this year, and so I felt like I had a much better view and thought process on what actually went down going into this film review than I've had all season. And it really did carry out, Nick. So I wish I was able to go to every game and watch every game from the 300 level. So I feel like I would have a much better read on the Giants right after the game. But this is the beauty of going to the tape, Nick, because you get that read with the tape. And that's what we're here to provide for the fans, a tape version of what we saw, of what went down, of why things happened the way that they happened, Nick. So I don't know where you want to start today. There's a lot to discuss, but if you had something, jump in. Otherwise, I can kind of lead you.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to discuss, the Giants were hardly under center last game. And it was to the point where I was like, every time they went under center, it was going to be some sort of different play. It was the throwback that ended up being an interception. It was the third and what was it? Or it was a loss of 8. It was a big sack. I don't think it was a 3rd and 8, but it was a big sack. So there was a lot of plays where it was like an obvious play action. And I felt like the Giants were a little bit predictable from that standpoint. I had the stat right here. Giants were in shotgun 77% of the time. They weren't running the football under center either. A lot of it was just RPO based, make your read and then make your decision. Daniel Jones, go into the zone read, design quarterback runs. We saw some duo. I think all the duo runs were successful because they were done on 3rd and 1 or a 4th and 1, or with the touchdown one, I believe was duo as well with 3 tight ends. I love seeing that. 13, it was a 14 personnel package, baby, because it was big. Josh Azudu was on the other side. Yeah. They bring Theo Johnson over to the play side, and Chris Manhertz stands up, a 280-pound edge rusher, dude, just stands him up and actually gains ground on him. Bellinger just eliminates the linebacker, and Tyrone Tracy Jr., who is a bright spot. I know he had like 2.9 yards per carry. It doesn't look good on the stat sheet, but when you watch him, there is a lot of little nuances with his decision-making, with his mind and his feet, and how he angles his body and how he approaches the hole and his acceleration through the hole that popped up on the All-22 tape, which I wasn't denying. I figured it would be that case. So came away pleased with everything I saw from there. And then, Daniel Jones wasn't good. There's that. And I'm sure we can, we'll probably talk about that at length in this podcast, unfortunately, but there were a lot of throws that were left on the field. The 3rd and 8 to Wan'Dale Robinson, watching that is just very frustrating. And a lot of those 4th and shorts and 3rd and short throws where he had guys open and it seemed like he pulled the trigger just a step too early. And Cincinnati was trained to just drive downhill very aggressively and knock the football away from the quick hitch routes. They weren't really available often for the Giants throughout the entire game.
No, they were not. And I want to start with your first point and work my way through a few other points. I'll start with the shotgun point. That was really interesting to see. It's like the Giants came out with a game plan here, Nick, and maybe that was based on what they've seen on tape from Cincinnati. I think it was maybe to throw them off a little bit, do some things differently than what the Giants put on tape against Seattle. But it was also a difference in the personnel groupings. We saw a lot less of Chris Manhertz in this game than we had gotten accustomed to, and a lot less of Daniel Bellinger. That has been kind of the case throughout the season, but just more 11 personnel in this game than we're used to seeing. I don't know if that was by design. Maybe it was because the Bengals secondary was so injured, right? They lost their best corner before this game. They were already struggling in the secondary to begin with. So maybe it was in a way to attack. And I felt like in the first half, the Giants did try to attack through the air against these corners. And I feel like they altered that game plan in the second half. But yeah, go ahead.
78% of their plays were in 11 personnel.
11. That's for the Giants. That's insanely high.
On the season, it's about 66%.
There you go. So that's insanely high for the Giants. So that was a key takeaway for me. The difference in using 11 personnel more often, fewer tight ends, which again, I'm a little concerned, but not concerned, but just curious about it, why they would do that, go away from what was working in some ways, and also the shotgun heavy approach. But to the second point you said, and we'll get into this a little bit more on Tyrone Tracy. There's some good stats that back it up too, Nick. Last night, the Giants offense created just 10 yards before contact on 17 Tyrone Tracy runs. Let me repeat that. 10 yards before contact, and he ended up with 50 rushing yards. So those are basically all on his own. Him creating those yards on his own with his vision, with his agility, with his cutbacks, with his yards after contact balance. That was Tracy doing everything. And why I'm saying that, Nick, that stat, and a couple other interesting stats on Tracy before we move forward. Highest route participation of any running back in the NFL in week 6, 72%. That was up from 41% in the week before against Seattle. Clearly, the Giants leaned on Tracy. He had the most pass blocking snaps of any Giants running back, beating out Eric Gray. That was a big step forward for him. They're feeling they can use him on all 3 downs. He also had the highest snap share of any running back in week 6 on a percentage basis. So he really was the workhorse, and they leaned on him as that. He had over 100 total yards. Again, they gave him nothing before contact. But that leads me to the next point, Nick, where, look, my take from last night on what the Bengals did wasn't changed. It wasn't, oh, no, wait, I looked at the tape and I saw something different. It was, if anything, substantiated by what I watched on tape. Everyone around the line of scrimmage, no one playing at depth. The Bengals shooting run gaps, the Bengals driving on every underneath throw, the entire game playing so overly aggressive against this quarterback, similar to what we saw from the Eagles against the Giants in the divisional round in 2022. I have no idea why every defensive coordinator wouldn't just do this from this point on. I don't know why every defensive coordinator hasn't just done this every game against Daniel Jones. Hopefully, yeah. But they didn't do it every game last year, weirdly enough, and 2022. I just think if I'm facing Daniel Jones, this is what I'm doing against him every single time.
We also saw Lou Anarumo incorporate drop 8 on 3 third downs. There were 3 key third downs. All of them resulted in, well, one of them was a pickup, Daniel Jones, where he picked up the first down after falling over, I think, Logan Wilson, and then like kind of stretched the ball. That was a first down conversion. But other than that, it kind of threw Daniel Jones off, it seemed like. And we saw Seattle use drop 8 a few different times against Daniel Jones to moderate success. There was a drop 8 interception in week 1 by Harrison Smith in the red zone. So teams are starting to throw that curveball at Daniel Jones, because I think they might look at Daniel Jones and say, we show pressure pre-snap, we drop off, drop 8. I think that can, just showing the pressure and having Jones go through his progressions real quick. I don't know if Jones calms himself down to be like, all right, I have some time now. Let me pace myself and let me find the option. Instead, he sees a bunch of guys drop back into coverage. The throwing lanes are very condensed, and he kind of panics and just tries to get rid of the football because he doesn't look comfortable in the pocket. He looks more frantic. When you watch Joe Burrow, you see a very comfortable quarterback. When you watch Matt Ryan back in the past, very comfortable. Matty Ice. When you watch a lot of these quarterbacks, there does seem to be a comfortability there that Daniel Jones lacks.
That's an excellent point, Nick. And I think that could be exasperated by the games where he gets the pressure early, right? And he gets rattled early, like in this game, because if you can rattle him early, you're getting him to go through his whole process a little bit faster, and which can lead to some of what you just said. Those, I don't know if they're simulated pressures, but those looks where it looks like they're going to pressure and they drop 8, confusing this quarterback. We know this is a quarterback that until this game has relied mostly on short passes, right? That whole Giants offense was fourth to last in the NFL in yards and throws past the sticks heading into this week. They were one of the highest teams in the NFL in first read target share. This is basically a figure out the solution pre-snap. It's always going to be short. Get the ball out and let your receivers do the work, with an occasional deep shot that worked against Seattle and basically no other teams. After this week, the Giants have fallen to, Daniel Jones has fallen to just completing 25% of his passes, 20 plus yards in the air. He was 2 of 8 on 20 plus yards throw in this game. His intended air yards were 2.2 in this game, Daniel Jones. That's the dead lowest of his career intended air yards. This was as rattled as you can make it, basically get him from the standpoint of just having him drop. A quick question on that I was curious about that I'm trying to find now, but it seems to have gone away. So I do apologize for that. I'll let you jump in. Or no, here it is. This was a comment made by one of our listeners that I wanted to get your take on, Nick. Okay. So it was interesting. It's from a former quarterback. So I want to see if you have any insight on this. I don't have much insight. I don't know quarterback play enough to have a good insight on this. He said, Daniel Jones consistently refuses to buy himself processing time with his drop back. He says, I hate it when he stops his feet. And he says, I hate it because I hate that when his feet stop on his drop back, he seems to stop his processing. If I were his coach, I would recognize this and have him take deeper drops. Both fourth downs, look at his drop. This is why the defense jumps on all his throws. He doesn't have Cam Ward's poise just standing there in process. Take deeper drops, Daniel Jones. He says this is a former quarterback speaking. He says quarterback drop depends on the route concept, of course, but one-step drops on crossing route with man coverage, that's bad. This is a big 3-step, one hitch, or quick 5 no hitch against the zero blitz. So any thoughts on his drop and how that's impacted his processing?
I don't know what he's being coached. So,
Okay.
I'm not going to weigh in there. I appreciate that feedback, though. Of course, it does seem like though when you're on these 4th and 1s, when the Giants are on these 4th and 1s, these 4th and shorts, and it's a passing play, I'm going to read this defender and then I'm going to make my decision. The Wan'Dale Robinson, the defender, they wanted that defender to carry Theo Johnson up the seam. He didn't carry Theo Johnson up the seam. Why would you carry Theo Johnson up the seam when there is a safety there? And Daniel Jones is going to go for the shortest option. So what he did was he took a step towards Theo and then he just drove right down on Wan'Dale Robinson. And by that time, the football came out and he knocked the ball away from Wan'Dale Robinson, all while Darius Slayton was open with the defender closest to him. The thing that Darius Slayton saw was his ass because the defender wasn't turned towards Darius Slayton. He was trying to gain depth, but a quick throw to Darius Slayton would have been an easy first time. But you got to make a decision. All these decisions need to be very quick for the quarterback. And the Giants rely on these route concepts to clear space. And then Jones, as the space is being cleared, he anticipated there that defender would not be there, and he threw the football, and the defender was there because all of these defenders are trained to drive down on the shortest option because that's what the Giants have put on film for 3 years now? It's been 3 years in Dable's system, and we've seen this consistently, Dan.
What's up, everybody? It's Jerry Ferrara. I've got a new podcast called Throwbacks with Heisman Trophy winner Matt Leinart, where we will be talking about all things sports, all things pop culture, and all things about our lives. From football locker rooms to Hollywood green rooms, we've got you covered. We're your weekly destination for the games you want to hear about and the stories you won't forget. Listen to Throwbacks on Apple Podcasts or Spotify with new episodes every Thursday.
What's up, Big Blue Banter listeners? I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy. No hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. Turns out, it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. And all of Mint Mobile's plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/BBB. That's mintmobile.com/BBB. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/BBB. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Hey everyone, this episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. Every man knows the unbeatable feeling of a fresh barbershop shave. Now, what if I told you that you no longer have to wait weeks or even months between appointments to experience it? Introducing Manscaped's newest innovation, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver, the game-changing tool that brings the luxury of a professional shave right into your home. Whether you're after that daily silky smooth finish or prefer to maintain a rugged 5 o'clock shadow, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver is your go-to for precision and style every time. Head over to manscaped.com and join the over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using code BIGBLUE for 20% off plus free shipping. Get the shave you desire. Be silky smooth and get the Chairman Pro today and experience a shave that is as smooth as you deserve. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code BIGBLUE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code BIGBLUE at manscaped.com. Hey, Big Blue Banter community. Tired of the same old team gear? It's time to elevate your collection and tap into the passion of game day at buckfalston.com. This isn't your average apparel. It's a statement. We're talking unapologetic designs that showcase our team spirit and poke fun at our rivals. Whether you're at the stadium, your game day bar, or with in-laws from Massachusetts, Buck Falston's apparel is comfortable all day, every day, and guaranteed to spark conversations. And here's the best part. Use promo code BLUE20 at buckfalston.com for 20% off your first order. That's BLUE20 for 20% off. Why blend in when you can stand out? Because in sports, half the fun is giving your opponent a hard time. Grab Buck Foston's apparel at buckfoston.com and wear rivalry with pride. Remember, promo code is BLUE20 for 20% off.
Yeah, Nick, that's a good transition to lead us into these fourth down plays, these 2 4th and 2 misses from the Giants offense. I think, look, a lot of time people get worked up about some of the deep shot misses that Jones has had, and he's only made 25% of his throws this year in the deep half, 2 of 8 in this game, 20 plus yards. Most of them come from clean pockets throughout the year. We think that's a big factor in why they've lost some of these games. But the reality is there's no way of denying that if the quarterback doesn't execute well on 4th and 2s twice in a game, that's a big factor in why a team lose a football game. And I did not think Jones executed well on either of these fourth downs. So I want to defer to you, hear your breakdown of what he saw, how the Bengals were able to kind of follow his eyes, and the lateness of some of these throws. And to me, it's just like, man, I understand the progression is hard to judge from our end, but can't we just get 1 or 2 plays in our life where this quarterback just naturally feels an open receiver outside of his progression and gets the ball out there? Because on both of these plays, there was an open receiver. It's just not natural for him to get off of what he's looking at and find that receiver.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're having some technical difficulties. So the screenshots that we're using from your end, Dan, they're not really coming through for me, so I can't see them. But I have these plays cut up, so when we get into my plays a little bit later, we'll go through them, and hopefully it will go over smoothly. But I brought up the incompletion to Wan'Dale Robinson earlier, and what I felt like happened. They just believed that apex defender that you're looking at right now was going to carry Theo Johnson, and he did not carry Theo Johnson. Another thing I want to say about Theo Johnson, I'm going to have this play in here. I'm going to remove this now, though. I don't like that throwback call to Theo Johnson, because Theo Johnson, I get it. He tested unbelievably. He's a great athlete. Doesn't look like it out there. Do you agree with that assessment?
I think he doesn't look like a great athlete so far when he's running routes. I think after the catch, he's looked like a good athlete. That's my assessment of what I've seen so far with Theo.
I think that's fair. Yeah, he almost hurdled somebody. It was like a weird, like the guy dove at his legs and he made a miss kind of, but then ended up stumbling forward for an extra couple yards. And I want to give credit where it's due there. But on that throwback route, I think that was just so much for Dable to ask. And I'm so glad that Dable came out after the game and said, I wish I had that call back, because it didn't result well. And it might have put Daniel Jones too much on his plate. And all it took was BJ Hill winning his one-on-one matchup and going right into Daniel Jones's face. And Jones didn't get rid of the football to Tracy, tried throwing out of the back of the end zone, and there goes the Giants' red zone possession. You can't have that. You can't win football games like that. And you can't make those mistakes, Daniel Jones. But watching Theo run the route, because that was designed to Theo, it's just he doesn't look agile enough to pull that route off. Like, he ran directly into the safety, was just like, oh, this is the play that you guys are running, really? So, and another thing, too, before we get into some of these plays, the offensive line did not play well.
Well, that's where I wanted to go. I wanted to make sure we touched on offensive line before we do plays, because we sometimes might miss that. I will say one thing before we get to offensive line, though, Nick, on the Theo point you made. Dable did say, you can blame that on me, but he also did say that we did have Tracy designed in there as well. And it's just kind of another example of the quarterback not being able to figure that out on the fly. Just no natural ability to find open receivers when plays are not going as designed. It's been too consistent in 6 years. It really just has been a lack of just. Can we just hit an open receiver naturally? It doesn't always have to be as it's designed, as you figured it out pre-snap, like your one read. Just find a way to just like hit Tracy there, man, like one time.
Yeah, Tracy was open. I mean, the quarterback was gaining depth, and he just wanted to try to go for the home run to Theo Johnson. Yep. I get that, but it's tough. There was a lot of times where BJ Hill was breaking into the pocket. Now, there were pockets. It's not like Jones was under pressure the entire games. He was only sacked 3 times, but BJ Hill had one hell of a game in this one, and it sucks to see, because we know BJ Hill, homegrown New York Giant, and he calls that interception. He had another play. I think it was one of those 4th and shorts or 3rd and shorts where he went into the pocket and Jones had to make a decision. It was the Wan'Dale Robinson one where he didn't throw to Wan'Dale. He threw to Darius Slayton, and the ball got knocked down. And it was like, you should have waited for Wan'Dale. Part of me, and we'll go over that play, but part of me is also like, I don't think he had time to wait for Wan'Dale Robinson, because that's a little bit more of a longer developing play. It's an arrow route, it's a replace route, it's a follow route, whatever you want to call it. It's Darius Slayton's going to clear out. Wan'Dale Robinson's going to run out, stem outward, and then go right back over the middle of the field. We've seen Dable run this a lot. They've run it successfully this season, but you need a little bit of time. And BJ Hill was right in Daniel Jones's face. So Jones, I think, had to just go, okay, let me just throw it to Darius Slayton. At that point, Slayton wasn't didn't have the separation to make a catch. So I think that's what happened on that specific play. And the offensive line, I don't know, man. Was this worse than week one?
I think it was worse than week one when you consider that I feel like week one was more on the quarterback. The quarterback was rattled wildly in that game and just had no feel for the pocket and was bailing pockets, doing horrible things in pockets, not being able to kind of manage them at all. That wasn't as much the case in this game. So I would say the pass protection was worse, but I would say my overall top-down opinion, Nick, is it wasn't as bad as we've seen in disaster years, right? Like there's been games we've seen where this, and I would also argue there was a lot, the pass protection was worse for the Bengals than it was for the Giants watching both sides of the ball. And I don't even think that's really up for debate. If you watch the tape, you can kind of see it. The Giants did a better job getting pressure on Burrow. And look what happened there. They made some plays, right? That quarterback made some plays. Our quarterback did not. And again, like I want to be fair on this podcast, Nick. I always want to be objective. And I want to say that objectively speaking, this was the worst game they had on pass pro. At the same time, it's not the only excuse or only reason for why they're losing. And it's not the biggest reason in this game.
No, of course not. And I'm not insinuating that. I know
that you're not. Yeah.
But it was weird seeing Andrew Thomas lose multiple reps. Now, I don't know when he suffered this injury. It might have been early in the game because he didn't look right the entire game. There were plays where he didn't surrender a sack where I was like for Andrew Thomas, we have high expectations for Andrew Thomas. Again, it's not like he was bad, but losing 2, 3, 4 times kind of cleanly to Trey Hendrickson, you're like, come on.
And Hendrickson's a great pass rusher. I want to give him credit, but you're right. It looked like he was a little off. But actually, before we get into the play analysis, I need to get your take on that situation in a second too, because we need to touch on that. But I also want to add before we get into that, I saw Illuminor lose at times, and he hasn't lost.
He had a bad game.
He had a bad game. I thought the left guard and the center, I thought they were beat. That Runyon and JMS got beat at times. Actually felt like, in my opinion, that Ben Roden was the best offensive lineman on the field in this game. Honestly, which is not a good thing, but just crazy that he was the only one who was kind of able to hold up. But there were enough clean pockets, right? Like the Wan'Dale miss, clean pocket. The Slayton ball that he didn't skip. I said last night he skipped into it. From my 300s level view, it looked like that ball skipped to Slayton, but it was just kind of low and shit. And like, some of these throws were just from clean pockets still. The Slayton DPI, which I argued with somebody on Twitter today. Did you see that ball in the end zone angle, Nick?
Yeah, it's not great.
I think that might have been the ugliest throw of Jones's career, honestly.
I think that's a stretch. We've seen some
that's a stretch.
We've seen some very ugly throws from Daniel Jones.
That ball, like that to me is the definition of aiming versus throwing a pass.
Yeah, it forced Slayton to work back to the football, which caused the DPI. But like Slayton would have had to jump over the top of that defender, and if the defender turned his head around, he probably would have had a shot at an interception. So there was a lot wrong with that play.
Yeah, we're having technical difficulties whenever I add any video to this, so I'm not going to add that, but you can find it on my Twitter, and I'll just let you guys be the judge of what you think you saw from that end zone angle. To me, that was one of the ugliest throws I've seen. Just totally aimed, purely clean pocket, only like a 20-yard throw, and it just completely died on Slayton and almost got Slayton concussed on the play, though. It did get a DPI, so I guess it is good from that standpoint. Yeah, man. But yeah, before we get into the plays, I do want to ask your thoughts on what's going to happen if Andrew Thomas's MRI comes back not clean. Now, I will say this: Thomas has played through injuries. He played through an injury all last year. I think he'll gut this thing out almost no matter what, unless the MRI says you can't. But if he doesn't, if the MRI says, look, you got something broken, or you have to miss 4 to 6 weeks or whatever it may be, it's looking likely that Josh Ezeudu will be playing left tackle for the New York Football Giants, because Josh Ezeudu came in as the extra tackle. Shout out to Will, who pointed this out. I didn't catch this until I watched the tape, but he played as the extra offensive tackle in the package you discussed, the touchdown run Tracy. And Dan Duggan, who's on the beat, has confirmed it won't be Evan Neal. It will be Josh Ezeudu. What the heck is going on there with that situation?
I have no idea. I'm not sure. Josh Ezeudu was healthy all training camp for the most part.
Yeah.
Evan Neal wasn't. And they have more faith in Josh Ezeudu, who they allowed to start last year before he suffered that foot injury, to start at left tackle. Was it bad? Yeah, it wasn't great. But I don't know if they have confidence in Evan Neal now switching to the left side. It's such a what a almost tragic situation with Evan Neal. It's to the point now where you're like, you're just a backup offensive lineman. You were a top 10 pick not long ago. You're just a backup. We're not even going to cross-train you to replace this 34-year-old that we signed 2 weeks into training camp or a week into training camp. No, you're just going to be not even the swing tackle, the backup right tackle to Jermaine Illuminor. If that's the case, that is very sad because he's been healthy at this point for what, more than a month now.
Mm-hmm.
You would imagine he would be up to speed. There's no confidence in him at this moment, and that's unfortunate because you're talking about somebody who went to IMG Academy. You're talking about one of the most prized recruits in his recruiting class. You're talking about somebody who everybody had as a top 10 pick in the National Football League. That's why people are like, oh, we got to blame Shane. It's like, I understand where that comes from. There's a lot of logic that leads you to that, but every general manager was going to make that mistake on Evan Neal because everybody loved Evan Neal in that draft, and he just hasn't developed at all. And at this point, it's just like, if you can't get on the football field, you're just going to ride your time, your 4 years here, not have your fifth-year option picked up, and then you're gone. It's just, what a waste of a pick at that point.
Yeah, and I think a big factor in what you said, Nick, is we spent a lot of time this offseason, not just us, but fans spent a lot of time this offseason saying, what's wrong with the Giants? Why aren't they? This is stupid of them to not cross-train him at guard. And that was the assumption that this is something we can do. But clearly, you can tell by their actions that they don't have confidence in him to play any position on their offensive line, not their swing tackle, not their guard. I don't really know what their plan is for Neal at this point. It's starting to look like they just have accepted him as a bust. But I mean, I know for sure that for me, Nick, I have no interest in watching Josh Azuto at left tackle. I would rather see Evan Neal sink or swim. And if it's real bad for a quarter, fine, bench him. At this point, what do you care anyway? It's not like he has confidence to be lost anyway. But I just like to see if he could go out there and prove somebody wrong at left tackle. I know this. We watched him at Alabama, dude. We watched Azuto at UNC. Azuto had snaps at tackle at UNC. They didn't look anything alike playing those two positions at college. I can't imagine that Azuto is that much better than him now.
I think it's a foot speed thing. I don't know if the Giants trust. I mean, but you're still training him a tackle. You haven't kicked him inside though. But
right. And why is he not kicked inside? It's so weird.
But to have him on the blind side of Daniel Jones, I think gives them fear. And with Azuto has the proper foot speed the necessary foot speed that you want. But I don't think he judges angles well.
Right.
But neither does Evan Neal. And Evan Neal has cinder blocks on each leg. So what are we going to do? I guess it's put Josh out there because he's been healthy and he's still a really young player. I still think Josh Azuto has a lot of talent, but I don't want to see him as a starting left tackle. So hopefully Andrew Thomas is fine because this offensive line has been the surprise. Now, it shouldn't be a surprise, but us Giant fans have seen the New York Giants invest in the offensive line, and then they still suck. So this offensive line has been the surprise of this season. This season is turning out to be a little bit abysmal at the moment, right? You have 2 wins, right? 4 losses. Should have won maybe some of those other games. It could be argued, whatever. But the offensive line has been stable for much of the season, Dan. And if you lose Andrew Thomas, that is out the window. And you think the quarterback is going to be able to put this team on his back? Of course not. So what's going to happen? We're going to deteriorate. Hopefully, quick passes to Malik Neighbors can, overcome that situation. But we've seen when you throw Malik Neighbors, 15 targets a game, bad things can happen because he can
get hurt.
And he can get hurt. And I get it. Like, it was the last play of the game, but
the Giants, all these other plays he got crunched on and crushed on. Could have got hurt on any of those.
So many.
So there's going to be a million defenders around Neighbors at all times because they're already they've given up on playing at any depth. Why would you play any depth against this quarterback? And so he'll just have 3 guys converging on him every time he touches the ball.
I just man, this is like peak Daniel Jones though. Like Daniel Jones went up to Seattle and he took care of business and he looked good on tape.
Yeah.
As we talked about, you guys saw it last week. He looked good and he gave us that little taste. It's like, all right, primetime football. Second worst defense in the league. Here we come.
Right.
Boom. Nothing, dude. It's just the only thing that would have compounded it more is if Malik Neighbors was healthy and they still couldn't do anything through the air.
Right. At least Neighbors wasn't there. So that kind of, gives the excuse, I guess, if you want to call it that or whatever you want to call it. But it is peak Daniel Jones. I mean, look, he was efficient at times this year, but a lot of this was just first read shit, man. At some point, we have to have a real quarterback on this offense who can throw the ball more than 10 yards with accuracy and consistency. And the arm, like I can't watch throws like that Slayton throw every year. And I'm not talking about the one that short hopped or didn't short hop, that just fell short on that easy routine throw.
That was comeback. Another under center comeback. Like that was one of the few under center play action to start. I think that was the first play of the second half. And I love that. Let's go under center. We're going to threaten the run. And then Slayton created like 5 yards of separation. That was a great route.
Great route.
Slayton's a good football player, man. He gets shit from Giant fans, and I get it. He had a frustrating drop in this game, not the one that the play we're referring to now. He had another one. He does that sometimes, but he's just a damn good football player who knows how to create separation, knows how to uncover. Is he the best contested catch guy? Not all the time, but he can come down with contested catch. He's a good 1B for your offense. And Right now, though, man, there's frustration. And that's another thing. I don't know if I have how many of the plays I have cut up that you guys are about to see, where you could see Wan'Dale Robinson, you could
Frustrated.
see Darius Slayton frustrated, pissed, throwing their hands up in the air, man. And I don't think it's like, oh, I hate Daniel Jones, but it's just like the frustration of, oh, I was open, man. Like, why can't you get me the football? And I can feel that. Every Giant fan feels that at this point.
Man, it can't get them the football because if he's not the first read in the progression, you're not getting the ball with this guy. He did it occasionally against Seattle. Good job. You did it sometimes. We applaud this guy when he does it sometimes, rarely. But this guy's never really doing it on a consistent basis. He leads the NFL in first read target share. Like, it is what it is. It's just so frustrating, man. And look, people can say what they want about that comeback route to Slayton. That was a good design. It was the first play of the half. And yes, I agree with what people said on Twitter that Slayton should have worked back to the ball, right? That's fine. A receiver's job. But dude, if there's anticipation on that throw and that ball just gets out there on a line high, he doesn't even need to work back to the ball. He's out of his break. The DB's 4 yards off the ball. He's catching it and he's maybe breaking that open for something. And I'll tell you why I think that, because on the play that was called back by the legal man downfield, Slayton was unreal after the catch. He looked speedy. He looked elusive. He looked explosive with no space to work with. He would have had so much space to work with on that play of the first half. That could have been a big play, touchdown. We saw him create a touchdown against the Texans 2 years ago where Jones just fired it out there and he did everything himself, Slayton. So it's just like, that's what frustrates me. If you can throw with anticipation and get the ball out on a goddamn line, this is a 20-yard routine comeback throw and it's dying on the receiver. Like, what are we doing here? Why is this happening? Why are comeback routes with clean pockets and he's hitching into the throw? Like, it's just, I'm sorry to get worked up. I need more. I need an arm. I need to watch an NFL arm. And I know it sometimes looks like an arm. Somehow against Seattle, it looks like an arm, but then it doesn't the next week. But even against Seattle, it's just 2 deep shots, dude. It's not like he was throwing 10, 12 balls, 10 yards of the field. It was 2 freaking throws, right? Like 2 throws all game. And we're like, he's doing it now. He's great. He's throwing downfield. It was 2 throws. Everything else was the same short shit.
I know. And I think you nailed it, man. Sometimes his arm identifies as an NFL arm, but it's not something that is consistent at all. And look, man, even this last week, you go on Giants Twitter, a lot of people kind of almost taking victory laps about
victory laps.
And it's like, look, he played well. Like, we're giving him his credit. He definitely played well. We need to see that consistently. And I don't know how many games in a row Daniel Jones is going to need to do that at somewhat of a consistent level for us to ever buy in, because we have 6 years, Dan, of it not being consistent. So why would we buy in at this point?
Yeah, I don't think there's any chance that you or I are going to buy in.
Well, no,
I mean, like, look, we're bought into maybe he can, if he can play like he played against Seattle, he can be like your starter that like you just have. And, you know, you're one of the teams that doesn't has like a Cousins type, which I don't even think he'd ever really even get to. That's too much. Yeah. But like, I don't even want that either, dude. I want something real. I want a chance to compete for divisions every year. I don't know how every fan isn't wanting this.
See, this is where like it's very interesting with Daniel Jones, and maybe this is a topic for another.
It is. And I'm sorry to have ranted. I just get so frustrated, man. The tape was so frustrating.
No, yes, he's wildly frustrating. But I think one reason why Daniel Jones is like a cat and he has 9 lives here in New York is because when you look at other quarterbacks around the National Football League who are just like terrible, Daniel Jones is better. He's a better quarterback than Zach Wilson. He's a better quarterback than Will Levis. Right. He's a better quarterback than those types of guys. But he has like nothing on the arm talent and the upside and the ceiling of a Baker Mayfield who was cast aside, of a Sam Darnold who was cast aside, of a Geno Smith who was cast aside, and players like that. So he's ultimately always going to be limited. Right. Because even if he is consistently delivering like he did against Seattle, and you're not going to hit that at like a 70% clip, right? You're not even probably going to hit that at a 50% clip. But even if he is delivering, he still doesn't have that type of arm and that type of pop as those quarterbacks that I just listed. Like, that is just not something that Daniel Jones possesses. Does he have an NFL arm? Sure. But it is certainly on the lower echelon of being an NFL arm. There's another quarterback on this roster who has a much more lively arm than Daniel Jones. And I'm not saying that Drew Lock should play over Daniel Jones, because I think Daniel Jones is the best starting quarterback for the New York Giants right now, which
I do too.
Which says a lot, though, that's the position we are in. If Tyrone Taylor was on this roster, I don't think I'd be singing that tune.
No, you would not be singing that tune. Anyone who can admit to themselves what they see anyone who watched the tape knows that Tyrod was the best quarterback on the roster last year. It's not even negotiable if you actually watch the tape, but you can have your own opinion on it. I don't care. Blame all these, say what you want. But like, the fact of the matter is, Nick, like, Yeah, he's going to make against Seattle. He made 2 deep throws and everything else was short, right? But like, there's still not enough in his game of like those 10 to 15 yard outs or like those in breakers from 10 to 15, or a skinny post, stuff like that. Like, it's just no part of his game whatsoever, even in that Seattle game, right? And it's like, at what point do defenses just say, this guy doesn't really throw down the field often in a game? Maybe we'll get beat once or twice. Why not just play everyone around the line of scrimmage? And that's the problem with this whole thing. Like, Cincinnati figured it out. You just don't have to respect this guy's ability to throw the ball at all, anything but the short shit. And that's just kind of what happened in this game. And there was no real answer from Dable, which I'll give him, I'll blame him a little bit for that. And there's no real answer from Jones. It's just like, what are we doing here then?
Yeah. I said we get into some plays now.
We'll get into some plays. I'm sorry that it led to this. I really didn't want this.
No, I think it's
I'm just beyond frustrated, man. We spend a lot of time on this team. We cover this team, Nick. We're huge fans of this team. We're ready. We deserve better from the passing offense.
We absolutely deserve better from the passing offense. The first play I wanted to highlight is something that we were just talking about. Now, this is a 1st and 10 play. The New York Giants, 10:54 left early in the game, right? The Giants come out empty. They used a lot of empty. They used a lot of shotgun. They put Tyrone Tracy outside the numbers. And this is simple New York Giants type of shit right here. You're going to run a flat from the number 3 receiver and then double slants. So it's to the 3 wide receiver side. And you watch how Cincinnati reacts to this. Wan'Dale Robinson goes to the flat and they all just beat right on it once Daniel Jones looks at it. Now they're reading 3-2. Some of these defenders anyways, meaning that they're going to read the release. And if the number 3 receivers goes out, they're going to go under and they're going to pass off their respective pre-snap responsibilities to other players. But once Wan'Dale Robinson goes out, you see 3 guys just dart too. If Wan'Dale Robinson catches the ball, he's getting killed. Right. And I only highlight this because it's the mindset of the Cincinnati Bengals that the New York Giants like to throw before the sticks. The New York Giants like to get the football into a player like Wan'Dale Robinson's hands and have him make players miss and pick up yards after the catch. And this is early in the game. Lou Anarumo knows this about the Giants, and you can see how they react. I wouldn't really expect them to react any differently, but you see how just dialed in they are as they drive downhill. Ball goes incomplete.
Good early example, too, of the depth that the Cincinnati Bengals are playing at. Look at how this looks before the snap. Does that look like a team that has any concern at all about you beating them in the deep half?
No, it does not. Passing complete. And the next play I want to go, this is the first time the Giants go under center, and it's a well-executed play. It's a screen to Tyrone Tracy Jr. that goes for 14 yards. You see how we just find space? Giants get 3. I don't know what the Giants are doing correctly. It's just a timing thing, a trust thing, it's a cohesion thing, but they are blocking screens well. And it's not like the Bengals really blitzed Daniel Jones too frequently here. And this was the only screen that they hit in the game. But look, man, you got Convoy and Tyrone Tracy Jr., that second gear that he has once he turns on and gets north to south or east to west. It's very impressive. So 14 yards, that's one of the more explosive plays they had on the day.
Yeah, it was one of their longest plays of the day. Their longest play was 15 yards. And I think, looking for silver linings in this game, the Giants screen game continues to be a weapon now for this offense. They've really figured out how to operate the screen game.
It's every time they run it, it seems like it works every time the Giants pick up a first down every time.
How crazy is that? It works now every time. It went from working none of the times to working every time.
Yeah, no, it's wild. Here, 1st and 10, 4:36 left in the first quarter. Wan'Dale Robinson, just a quick little arrow route that goes for 15 yards from the backfield. I like putting Wan'Dale Robinson in the backfield every now and again, man. Yeah. I think it's wise. You still have Tyrone Tracy, so it's 11 personnel. He's outside the numbers, though. Again, you can see how number 20 is playing him. Far hash, running back, asses towards Tyrone Tracy Jr. He's just going to restrict the space, not really threatened by Tyrone Tracy Jr. But he just released Wan'Dale, just replaces Theo Johnson, wide open. Ends up picking up a good chunk of yards. So there were plays like this that the Giants were able to dial up just simple, easy yards to attack a cover 3 defense that Cincinnati is attempting to run, get Wan'Dale Robinson in space. So I appreciated that from Dable. It's just the execution when it mattered most fell short. And that's something that we've said about this New York Giants team for quite some time now.
And this was their best drive of the night by far to me. This was the one where they got down to the 18 and then Jones threw that inexplicable interception where he just lobbed it up over the middle. Horrible decision, obviously. Anyone could admit that. But this was the only drive where they actually moved the ball through the air. Like their other scoring drive, Nick, was just basically just like Tyrone Tracy gutting out yards, consistently getting these like 3rd and 2s and 4th and 1s and 2nd and 2s. Like it was just kind of a gross looking drive. This one, they actually looked like they were going to have an offense that night.
they looked like it was an NFL offense. Like the
Yeah.
offense in the second half of the game, like I said on yesterday's podcast, it's like the offense you design when you have your backup quarterback in.
Yep.
It was just, let's possess the football. We're just going to go for it on 3rd and 1 and 2nd and 1. We're just going to do 2nd and 1. We're doing quarterback sneaks. We're not going to do anything exotic. We can't take a sack and get off script. We got to possess the damn football. We got to put points on the board, which they weren't able to do other than the one touchdown.
And it's a great point you make just overall about what is the ceiling of a Giants team like this? Well, ask yourself this question. If you're a defensive coordinator and you've seen enough tape that you know the opposing offense in second and short situations is never taking the shot, how much easier does that make your job as a defensive coordinator and as a team? And that's what the Giants are.
Yeah, I don't think it's as consistent. I think this was like a second half adjustment because the Giants had no confidence in Daniel Jones and their offense.
I believe you're right on that for this game, but I'm trying to think like this year if we've seen any second and short shot plays.
I'm sure we have.
Okay.
I'm sure we have. That was good protection too. I wanted to bring that up. Now here's the interception. Again, under center. I do not like this play design. I do not like this play call.
Yeah.
The design is a variation off of the play that Dan and I have been talking about, and I think they've run it in 4 or 5 games this year, right? The throwback. Only doing it to Theo Johnson, I just think it's not smart because you're going to watch 84. He's inside on the bunch, attached to the line of scrimmage. It's not like he's creating any separation here. That's not an athletic route. And there's two. No one follows. I guess maybe they expected man coverage. I'm not really sure because you can see Theo Johnson is running into 2 defenders. And Jones just tosses it up, and Jermaine Pratt is like, "Oh, I'm already in position to make this pick."
And I thought that was a really interesting, and that one, yeah. I mean, you nailed it. That one was one where you're watching from the 300s, and you're like, "Oh no, oh no, oh no!" You knew it was picked, right? Because that ball's hanging in the air, hanging in the air when you're watching it live. But, I thought it was a really interesting comment from Brian Dable in the post-game analysis where you're right. He did say, you can put that one on me. You can put that on me. It's so funny how many fans have told me this coach has told us this quarterback's good for all these years. And he keeps telling us week after week, the quarterback's playing well. You're wrong. It's like, what do you think? There's no such thing as coach speak in the NFL. Do you think these coaches are going to hang these players out to dry? Do you remember the puff pieces we got from Giants players during Joe Judge's final 2 weeks of the Giants season? We love Judge. We love playing for Judge. That's what you say, right? That's what you tell the media. You don't tell the truth. But one thing Brian Dable did say in this, Nick, was he doesn't think that the quarterback threw the pass to complete it. Did you hear him say that? That was a very interesting line.
I don't really. I mean, I thought it was obvious. He's trying to throw it out the back of the end zone here.
Right. No, I know that's obvious, but it's like, if that's the case, you're not trying to throw it to complete it, why are you hanging it over the middle of the field?
He's just trying to throw it out the back of the end zone. And, dude, you're at the 25-yard line now. So that means you need to put at least 35 yards on this ball to get it outside the end zone. Plus more because these athletic freaks on the back end can jump up and pluck a ball that's even 40 yards possible.
Right. And your best, if you're trying to throw it out of the end zone or at, an incomplete pass, your best option is not to hang it over the middle where there's a million defenders. It's to throw it at the feet of the running back who's wide open. Right. Yeah. Like, this is an easy freaking decision to make. It's not easy, but under pressure, you want them making the right decision. You don't want them hanging over the middle. You want them throwing it to the goddamn running back's feet.
Yeah, and Tyrone Tracy Jr. gets open because number 20 is just gaining depth. Just get it to him right now. He wanted the peak to see. Again, don't design this play for Theo Johnson, please. And again, shelf it. I know it worked against Seattle, but that's tough.
And let me just say something. Me being
First
this
and 10,
frustrated, Nick, before we go to this, I just want to make something clear because it's bothering me. Me being this frustrated and having these unfortunate emotional outbursts is not because I hate Daniel Jones, okay? I have no emotional attachment to him. It's that I hate watching this team have bad quarterback play. That's a totally different thing, and people need to be able to understand that and separate it because it's very important to me that people understand that. I have no hate towards this guy. He's a great guy. He works hard. He comes in early. He leaves late. Great. He's a good human being. I don't care. I want a good quarterback, and I want to watch good quarterback play. I don't want somebody dumping 3 points off the board, maybe 7, because of a stupid-ass decision like this.
100%. 100%. Could have cost the Giants a game. Now we're going to get 13 personnel. This is early in the second quarter. The Giants are going under center. Again, another under center play. They did not do this often. They go play action, not running the football, hit your back foot, and Trey Hendrickson beats Andrew Thomas inside. And they're doing play action deep shots with 13 personnel. You have Daniel Bellinger and Theo Johnson trying to tap into their field stretching ability with Darius Slayton at the bottom of the screen to the field side. You can see the safeties flare out. It's cover 2. And by the time any of those routes even develop, Daniel Jones is getting hit by Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, Hendrickson had a huge game in this one. Good player, but obviously Andrew Thomas, not one of his worst games and playing through the injury.
Yeah, and you can see here, Hendrickson just does a good job. That's beautiful footwork by Trey Hendrickson. Stress the edge, stress the edge, stress the edge. Now bring your feet inside as Andrew Thomas is getting himself in position to eliminate you from the edge. So now I'm going to work back to the inside. Andrew Thomas now needs to flip his hips, giving you that soft angle to kind of cut through right into the pocket. And you also see John Runyon just get nailed on this looper, this penetrating twist. Oh, boy.
They got hit by the
That's
loops and stunts worked well in this game against the Giants. I thought that the Bengals did a really good job up front with their defensive line.
Yeah, man. I don't really love that 13 personnel deep shot.
I know. You made a great point, dude, about how every time the Giants went under center, it was to design a deep shot. And that probably was picked up on by Anarumo.
I think they ran 3 duo runs, which is usually under center, right? Yep. 3 duo runs. One was the touchdown. Another one was, I think, a 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 that they picked up. And then there was another one that they, I think they picked up too and converted a short yardage situation. But other than that, they weren't really doing it in these like normal 1st and 10 type of situations. A lot of zone read, a lot of trying to run the football that way. But again, the Giants only ran the football like 5 times, other than Daniel Jones in the first half.
Right. Very pass heavy in the first half to try to take advantage of what the Bengals are doing. Look at these looks, dude. There's nobody. There's one safety. Like there's just nobody. Everyone's around the line of scrimmage every snap for the Bengals, and they're driving downhill aggressively. This is the type of thing. Like when somebody plays you like this, you should be able to beat them through the air.
I mean, you have the one safety very deep because this is just cover one hole. And
I was backed up on a play before this. I'm sorry. I'm the video's lagging big time for me, unfortunately, on my end.
It's okay. This is the 3rd and 8 Wan'Dale Robinson miss by Daniel Jones. Wan'Dale Robinson creates so much separation, and you're going to have the whole defender get put in a somewhat of conflict here because you're going to have 2 crossers, and you can see him attempt to pass off or accept the pass off of Darius Slayton on the underneath crosser. And then he's telling, I think that's Cam Taylor-Britt, like, hey, replace the other crosser because our other defender is an outside leverage, so we need somebody to undercut that. But he takes his bad angle. Wan'Dale Robinson has like 3 yards of separation. Beautiful.
It's going to be a touchdown. A good quarterback can throw a touchdown on this play.
Probably not with the safety over top, but still a catch and a
lead him to the sideline, let him not good. An elite quarterback, I should say. Not a good quarterback. It would have to take the elite. You don't think there's any? I guess I see the safety. The video's coming in choppy for me.
No, I feel you, man. It's tough with the internet today. But
I think I think the safety whipping wins over here in Jersey. Are you getting that?
Not really, no.
Okay.
But I know it's going to be windy at the game tonight. But you can see that safety's there. I think he has the angle.
I see it now. Safety definitely has the angle. But it's obviously a pass that you just can't you simply just can't miss these throws over and over again. The guy has 3 steps of separation, and you're thrown from a clean pocket. I think that's been the biggest issue with Jones hitting only 25% of his passes that travel 20 yards this year. How many of those Nick have we seen like this that have been clean pockets? Like it's not like he's just throwing off his back foot, getting pressured. Some of these throws are just they should be able to be made, dude. Like you should be able to make some of these from clean pockets.
I agree. BJ Hill really accelerated this throw and I think led to it being incomplete. He beats John Michael Schmitz. I would have loved to see Greg Van Roten stick and help John Michael Schmitz. But he went to go help Jermaine Illuminor, who looked like he had.
And one solution for that is get rid of the ball a little earlier, throw with some anticipation, right? Understand that you can make some anticipatory throws. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to wait for
everything. Everything with Jones is on a line too. It's always like on a line. It's never like lofted in there. It's
no trajectory to his game. It's always on a line, or it's either on a line when he's actually letting it loose like that, or like the Slayton end zone throw. It's aimed, and so it's like weirdly floated out of his hands and comes out wildly ugly.
And then we have here the first play of the second half, 1st and 10. They're under center again. No, this is no. Yeah, well, they're under center. They go for the play action and just throws it in the dirt. It's, I would say, skipped in a little bit. Now, you could say, he should work back to the football. He works this. Yeah, he stops though.
He could work back to the football, right? Like this is.
I think he could have done a better job there. Yes,
I'm willing to say that Slayton could have done a better job. I'm also willing to say though, Nick, that if you have a quarterback who can just rip this ball on a line with anticipation before the wide receiver gets out of his break, he's catching it immediately out of his break, and then what happens? He's breaking up for yards after the catch. Like we should be able to set a higher standard bar. And when you look at this from the end zone angle, the ball really dies in the air. Like that's the scary part. That the ball just like has nothing on it and it just falls to the low ground. Like it's just, these are routine throws, dude. This is not a difficult throw. This is when you start to question the arm talent.
100%. Now we're going to have the 3rd and 15. You're going to drop 8, baby. Drop 8 quarterbacks by. This is what Lou Anarumo did against the Kansas City Chiefs in the 2021 AFC Championship game, and it ended up winning the football game because of it. You can see they just kept that spy, and whenever Pat would try to do his crazy shit, there was always Logan Wilson or a player in his vicinity. Well, they employed a similar strategy. They were going to drop 8 too high, and Daniel Jones ends up finding Theo Johnson. They almost called the ineligible man downfield. They decided it was okay, and this set up the 4th down that I don't believe was converted. And we're about to go over that play here in a second. It's the Wan'Dale Robinson one. But yeah, Theo Johnson gets a quick little pass here.
Yep.
And then everyone drives downhill, makes tackle. He almost jumped over the guy, though. Now here's the 4th and 2. Drive down on Wan'Dale Robinson. You can see they expected Theo Johnson's initial stem goes inward slightly, and he runs directly at that apex defender, expecting that apex defender to carry Theo Johnson. But he saw right through 84 and knew Wan'Dale was just sitting right beneath that release, because the Giants run this play concept very frequently. Drive right down, knock the pass away. Beautiful play by the Cincinnati Bengals. Good film study by 21.
Yep.
4th and 2. Yeah.
Look at how aggressively the Bengals played this.
Absolutely. And then if you look at Darius is open here, but the primary read, 4th and 2 is going to be Can Wan'Dale Robinson, he's the first read, get open underneath the release of Theo Johnson. And it was just really a great individual effort by the Bengals, and the quarterback can adjust off of that. But it's very tough. It is very bang.
Yeah, I would say you would hope that, looking at the technique from 29, that you can as a quarterback, you might be able to adjust on the fly and be like, he's in that type of technique, the flat's going to be open to Slayton. But that's just, I don't think that's part of the thought process at all. I think it's just catch the ball, you made your decision pre-snap, and get the ball to where you made your decision. That's honestly how it feels watching him.
Yeah. No, I feel you. And here's a 4th down pickup on an option play. 4th and 2, a little bit later on in the 4th quarter. I love the subtle little mesh sell. You can see how he goes into the mesh point. Tyrone Tracy leans on that inside foot, basically signifying to the linebackers, hey, you need to come fill, because this is going to be his own read. You can see them take these little steps forward towards the line of scrimmage. You see that? And then look, now we're going to go. And now they do not have the angle, which provided the angle for the Giants offensive lineman to at least get enough contact on them to allow Tyrone Tracy to be in a matchup against one defender, and he's able to cut it back, pick up 1st down.
Great.
So I like that
spatial awareness and situational awareness on this play by Tracy.
And that's a really good play design by Dable, just to flash the mesh point.
Yep.
Freeze the defense, pick up the short yards. 2 yards, man.
Cool.
And here's another shot play that was dialed up.
The whole game, Nick, was just them trying to create these 1st downs, trying to grind toward a 1st down the entire game. Yeah. This is what my brother and I were talking about in the 300s last night, how frustrating it was just watching offense, having to really grind every inch to just get a 1st down, to marker the move a little bit.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It was a really disgusting.
Against the worst defense in the NFL by EPA. Somehow.
So this play. Yeah, I know. It's wild. You're going to have empty formation, 1st and 10, double moves from the slots. Wan'Dale and Darius Slayton act as if they're running posts, and then they just run them directly up the numbers. And you can see Darius Slayton. I think this is a defensive hold right there, or contact, just illegal contact. It probably should have been. And you can see how wide open he is and how he is frustrated. He is skipping down the field. He has about 2.5 yards of separation. He throws his hands up and does a little skip as the camera fades away from him. But Jones decided to take Tyrone Tracy Jr., which, I get here. You're trying to get rid of the football. He's wide open, but if you're a little bit more patient, you probably would have either had a penalty on Slayton or maybe even a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, that's the difference, right? I mean, we have it just, I don't know, man. It's how much have we seen of this, right? Do you think, I'll ask you a question. If Tyrod Taylor was the quarterback, do you think that ball's going to Slayton, or do you think it's going to Tracy?
Yeah, probably Slayton.
Right? But again, Taylor, the 8th best led the NFL in explosive pass rate last year. He's looking to take that shot, and he connects on it most of the time. But this is what we have.
It is. Slayton looked pissed.
Yeah, I'd be pissed too if I won my route like that. And the only reason, I mean, he would have crushed him if he didn't get illegal contact. That would have been 6 yards of separation.
Here we're going to get just a little play. It's 1st and 10. I just like this play design because you have the switch release at the bottom of the screen, and then you're going to flare out the running back. So that's going to expand a defender, and it allows Darius Slayton to run into the void. You see how the defender to the bottom of the screen, who's closer to the line of scrimmage, is expanding with Tyrone Tracy Jr. Darius Slayton just replaces him, man coverage, open, and then you have the switch release at the bottom of the screen to create traffic and also clear out that side of the field. We've watched Dable run this. Yeah, Dable ran this play a lot towards the back end of the 2022 season against the Colts and twice against the Vikings. Darius Slayton was the beneficiary of some of those routes. Those were running a little bit more depth.
I like when he does those types of things, like move the pocket a little bit or expand it, just to, like he did it last week against Seattle on the touchdown throw to Slayton. It kind of moves the safety a little bit and it moves their whole defense.
Yes, it does. Now here's my final play. It's the 4th and 2, the follow concept. You're going to see Wan'Dale Robinson's going to release outside. He's just going to follow the path of Darius Slayton. I think the pressure that Daniel Jones faces from, I believe that's BJ Hill again, really just forced him to deliver this ball to Darius Slayton and not be patient, because Wan'Dale Robinson comes over and you can see Wan'Dale Robinson throw his hands in the air and just be like, oh, I'm so open. He grabs his helmet because he was wide open. This is the play design the Giants love to run against man coverage. It's a good play design, but it is a little bit longer developing. And Daniel Jones didn't really have the time, and he couldn't be patient with it because of that right there. BJ Hill beating John Michael Schmitz.
Yeah, beating almost like a double team, then beating Schmitz. But yeah, I think a big factor in this is, look, by the time that he made the decision to make this throw, Slayton had lost the route, right? The DB was undercutting him. Jones should kind of be able to see that that like when you're right before here, you kind of have to know you can't make that throw anymore.
It's great coverage. Yeah, it's just great coverage by Turner.
It's great coverage. The play's dead. Like the play is blown before he throws the ball. There's no way that Slayton can win this at this point because that coverage is so good. So agreed, the pressure's there, but I don't know if this can be your decision either to just throw this into this. I think maybe you can have some kind of feel for where other receivers are going to be, snap your head around and try to find something else. Like hit Wan'Dale Robinson, who is running this type of arrow route that might be there. At least he might not be open, right? You won't know that at that point. Naturally, you might. Some quarterbacks do. He doesn't. But that this Slayton route can't win at that point. It's too late at that point.
You probably do know that Wan'Dale is going to be open because it's unless there was a switch at the line of scrimmage, which would have been a banjo type of coverage, but it would have been a linebacker against Wan'Dale Robinson over the middle of the field because Wan'Dale is releasing outside of Theo Johnson. So that is going to force that DB to flow outside of Theo Johnson, and then he's using Theo Johnson as a pick coming over the middle of the field, and you are aware that DJ Turner is latched on to Darius Slayton. So there's wide open space for Wan'Dale Robinson to operate. It's just,
but you have to anticipate that. That's the difference. You have to be able to anticipate that Wan'Dale is going to win because of the factors that you said, Nick, because he's going to expand by releasing outside, because he's going to get matched up against the linebacker there. That's all on the quarterback to anticipate. One thing you can't do, though, is make this throw to Slayton. It's dead. The play is dead. They've driven on it. They've undercut it. It's over. And the fact of the matter is, if you could have anticipated Wan'Dale open, that's not just a first down, Nick. Wan'Dale has yards of space. We could be talking about a 1st and 10 around the 15.
Yeah, and that's also with Logan Wilson like screaming in, vacating that void.
That gap, that void where Wan'Dale will be. I mean, come on, man. That's leaving a play on the field as a quarterback. Enough. Like it's just so much, man. It's just so frustrating for me to have to do this every single year. And we just go back and forth. And is he the guy? Is he not the guy? Or blah, blah, blah. He is. He just never got the pass protection. Look at what he did against Seattle. It's a sign of things to come. You guys said he could never be consistent. He's playing consistent now. It's too much. And I don't even care about that rhetoric, Nick. I just care about the fact that we have to do this, that like we watch this as fans, that like me and my brother went to that game hoping like, can we turn? And we said it before the game. We're like, dude, if we win this game and we get to 3-3, we got the Eagles coming in at 3-3, playing really bad ball. Like that could be a big game for us as a franchise. So we could win that game, get to 4-3. Washington at that point we might be leading division, but we can't do it when the quarterback leaves this many plays on the field, and we can't do it when the quarterback is this inconsistent, and we can't do it honestly with a quarterback who doesn't really have the arm talent that you guys say that some fans say he does, because it's not there. It's just not there consistently. Balls are dying on him. Balls are way off target. And defenses don't respect it. That's the key to all this. Regardless of what you think about his arm, the defenses don't think what you think. The defenses don't care what you think. They play him top down all the time. And they've played. What do we have in this game, Nick? 71% middle of the field closed. Who uses that in the NFL these days? No coordinators call that because they respect quarterbacks enough to not call that. But they could call it in this game because they don't respect what this guy can do with his arm.
Yeah, it's rough. One more topic before we get into our superlatives. Jalen Hyatt.
What'd you say? I'm sorry. Jalen
Hyatt.
Bad. He had bad tape in this one, without a doubt.
Yeah, he looks weak. Like he can't get off any kind of
And we've seen
physicality. And like we had a lot of summer buzz or summer that he put on some muscle, still maintained that speed. There's a lot of buzz surrounding him. I felt like it was warranted, provided all the information that we had at the time. But through
Sure.
2 games, watching the tape, I think the Seattle tape wasn't as bad as some fans make it because he did draw some very important penalties. He created separation on the long play to Darius Slayton as well. But in this game, yeah, I was like paying attention to him and watching him run around. And I love how he blocks his ass off and he tries and all that. But it just seemed like anytime somebody contacted him, it was like he was eliminated from the play.
I think you're spot on. I think the analysis was excellent to even the point where I do think his Seattle tape wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. I think there were some routes he won on his Seattle tape. That wasn't the case in this game. Some people wanted him to fight more for those long balls, which I can respect. At the same time, those balls need to be located a little bit closer to the receiver, my God. And the thing I come to, Nick, is this. I don't really think they're using him in the best way to use him. While at the same time, while I say that, Nick, I know that they can't use him any other way because of their personnel. Like to me, Jalen Hyatt should be the guy in the slot getting free releases, not really matched up on the outside in a good offense, right? In like a tempo offense or like an offense that can like move the ball through the air. And he can run slot verts, he can do different things. But they have Wandell for that role. And if not, I want to see Neighbors in the slot. So with what they have, like it's a good thing that Slayton stayed healthy and has still been healthy despite all these hits he's taken and all this stuff because they essentially need Slayton. They don't have outside receivers outside of Slayton and Neighbors and Hodgins, I guess.
I think Hodgins is a better receiver than Jalen Hyatt right now.
That could be the case. I do think if Jalen Hyatt was used in the slot, he could be a different player. I really do believe that.
I hope. I think there are aspects of his game that are just holding him back, like significantly hindering his development. Because it's like if you can't do this, then you're almost useless other than your speed, right?
Well, that's
I hated, and I was not, and we were not on this podcast the type of guys who were like, oh, he's just a speed receiver because he did show more than that. He's not like Stephen Hill, right? He can make these like wild catches that require insane concentration over the middle of the field. We've seen him do it. We've seen him work the sideline well.
Yeah.
But if you can't defeat press and you don't have a diverse release package and you're just jammed up at the line of scrimmage, teams are going to play you that way. And it seemed like it frustrated him in this game. And I'm not questioning his effort. I think he was out there balling or attempting to ball the entire game, but it's a letdown. And I look at a guy like Hodgins, who is a better blocker than Jalen Hyatt. And I look at some of the nuanced things Hodgins does. He's not nearly the athlete Jalen Hyatt is, but I think it's safe to say that Hodgins is a better overall receiver, but you're never, as I brought up last week, you're never, and they shouldn't, I'm not advocating for them to do this, you're never going to put Jalen Hyatt through what you're doing to Isaiah Hodgins because no one's going to pick up Hodgins. A lot of people will pick up on the development of Jalen Hyatt because he has that trump card. He has that speed. It's just the Giants haven't accessed it once this season, at least from a statistical standpoint.
That's a great point, Nick. And I think you're right. And I think part of the issue here is that Jalen Hyatt was drafted to this team, but he doesn't fit this offense at all, right? Like at Tennessee, he won the Biletnikoff by in a wide open offense that's taking a ton of deep shots, and he's winning downfield early and often. This is the total opposite. The Giants are the worst deep passing team in the entire NFL by the numbers and by the eye test. So he just doesn't fit what this offense, and also it's not like they're even running a vertical offense, right? Like they have taken some deep shots, the Giants, because the defenses are begging them to and giving them all these openings in the deep half. But the offense is designed to be first read, get the ball out, quick 3-4 yard throws. That's the whole offense designed to make this quarterback make it operate. And that's what we've seen. Again, fourth lowest average throw past the sticks in the NFL. That definitely dropped. I'm sure they're at the lowest after a 2.2 air yards night last night. So he doesn't fit this offense, right?
Yeah, you sound like T-Pain right now. It's coming through, but it's rough. So let's get through the superlatives, and then before we do the defense, you got to do something with your computer.
We will try.
Yeah. So superlatives, unheralded player.
I went Greg Van Roten. We discussed him a little bit earlier.
I had Chris Manhurst. He only played 19 snaps, but he was blocking edge rushers, not just in the run game, but in pass protection, like standing them up, and Jermaine Pratt and linebackers too. And he looks damn good and smooth doing it. What about best throw?
Yeah, I want to, and Chris Manhertz we've discussed, but I just want to give him a credit. Every time he's on the field, he's operated his role well. So best throw. This is kind of the second time we've had this situation, Nick. I remember we had one either I think last year too, where there is no good throws on tape. At least according to me. I'm maybe you have a different opinion of what you saw. So it's just weird to have a game like this where you can't figure out a single throw. I'm going with the Theo Johnson 15-yard play. It's not really a good throw. I think it was like traveled 4 or 5 yards in the air, but he avoided the sack. He avoided the negative play. He got hit while throwing and still put the ball out to Theo. Again, just 5, 6 yards in the air, but Theo was able to catch it in stride and then run for another 15 yards. So I'm going with that one.
Yeah, so I have the quarter 3, 8-14, 3rd and 4, a quick pass to the outside shoulder of Darius Slayton. It was like about 5 air yards, maybe, but it was placed against the defender's leverage, and it was good ball placement. It didn't really get killed on the play. He fell a little bit awkwardly. So quick pass, but good placement.
You're talking about the in-breaker that he put on the outside shoulder, Slayton?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That was good. I guess I guess I can put that as the best throw. Again, it was what, 4 or 5 air yards?
Something like that.
It's crazy. Right, how can you go a whole game without any throws? It's insane to me.
Best player overall.
Best player overall is Tyrone Tracy for me, without a doubt.
Easy. Player we expect to see more from.
Daniel Jones.
I would do the entire offensive line minus maybe Greg Van Roten could be thrown in there. But yeah, Daniel Jones is the easy answer. Pass blocking.
I went 3-5.
Yeah, I went 2-8. 3-5 sounds good though too. 3-5 is a little bit more accurate. 2-8's a little bit mean. Just because, look at me, I'm a spoiled Giant fan now because of the Giants.
Yeah, we were so used to giving out 8s and 9s for the pass blocking. It's rough for us now.
All right, run blocking.
I also went 3-5 there. I settled on that for both sides of the ball. I felt like, to me, the run game was stopped because they were playing it so aggressively defensively.
Right. I have 2-6.
Okay. All right, you're chopping up now too, Nick. Something's going on with our internet. I think it's because there's some kind of storm coming in on my end, which is not good for us. We apologize for some technical difficulties in this podcast. Thank you to everybody tuning into the podcast. I forgot to ask. I know we're not going to get any, so I get a little depressed asking Nick on these types of episodes because when the Giants put up a stinker like this, our views go way down anyway. But please try to like and subscribe to the pod. Help support the show. I know we suck again. I know we're 2-4, and I know we just broke down one of the ugliest tapes you'll ever see on the offensive side of the ball. But try to help us support this. There will be good times at some point with this franchise, and I'm excited to talk Giants football with Nick when we're actually a good team, and we could throw a forward pass at some point with any kind of consistency on a week-to-week basis. But we're not there yet. Give us some time. Thank you for tuning in. Like and subscribe, and please tune into the defensive podcast coming up next.